Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. How the entitlement society makes America weaker. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. I am flashing back to my school teaching days. Last night I told you the committed left is furious that people like me are telling Americans the truth, that the USA is becoming an entitlement society, and that helped President Obama win re-election. If you missed my talking points from last night, you can access it on the Fox News website. Now, why should you care about that? Well, one big reason: the entitlement culture weakens the country. First, the facts. A little more than 20 years ago, in 1991, the federal government spent 9% of the budget on means-tested entitlements, things like food stamps, housing, welfare. Now the number is 16%, almost double. In 91, individuals in 41 million American households were receiving some kind of entitlement outside of Medicare and Social Security. Now the number is an astounding 107 million Americans, an increase of 161%. Can you believe it? Even though the population has increased just 24%. 20 years ago, 23 million people received food stamps. Now 45 million people do, a record. In 92, about 3.5 million Americans were receiving federal disability payments. This month, nearly 9 million Americans are getting that federal payment. So you can see, anybody can see, that the entitlement society is exploding in America. There's no question about it. Yet liberals will deny it's happening or say it's all because of the bad economy, which is flat out false. In 1992, the black unemployment rate was 14.3%. In 2012, this year, the black unemployment rate is 14.3%, exactly the same. In Hispanic precincts, the situation is similar. So this is about a dramatic change that is overwhelming the United States of America, not economic malaise. When you have more than 100 million Americans living in a home, receiving stuff from the government, again, outside of Medicare and Social Security, you're not counting that, then you have a large dependence on the federal government. And what does that do? Well, it saps motivation. Why bust your tail when the feds will give you enough to get by? America became great because of individual self-reliance. Hardworking people took chances, suffered, created things that helped the country. Everyday Americans empowered this nation, not the federal and state governments. They're in place to protect us and to see that social order is kept, not to provide cradle-to-grave security. The Founding Fathers did not want that. The Democratic Party wants a Western European model. They want voters dependent on the government. The result? $16 trillion in debt, an awful economy, and a growing population that lacks ambition. This is a road to disaster. Perhaps President Obama will change. Surely he has to know that if he and his party continue to build up a massive nanny state, America will eventually collapse economically. And that's the truth. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us from Washington, Fox News analyst Charles Krauthammer. We'll also have some thoughts on the latest Libyan information. So first, the entitlement society, Charles. I thought Mitt Romney told the truth the other day in that conference call with his donors when he talked about President Obama giving stuff to his supporters. What say you?
Well, look, that small bore stuff, I think it is completely undeniable that the Democrats are the party of the entitlement state. After all, what is the greatest achievement of Obama's first term? Obamacare. Obamacare was premised on the right to health care. This is the largest new entitlement in 50 years. It's 1/6 of the U.S. economy. It's health care, which is the most intimate sort of social relationship anyone, any parent, any child can have. And it's been essentially nationalized. And the Democrats proudly said, we've done this because we're the only industrialized country not to have guaranteed health insurance. So no one can deny that the ideal of the Democratic Party is to increase entitlements. It's just made the biggest leap in half a century, and that it is a social democratic model on the European scale, and taking us away from the traditional American model of more risk, more initiative, and more innovation.
All right. Now, when I pointed that out on election night, that people were breaking for the president, and a large part of the reason was entitlements, because the below 30,000, 63% vote for Barack Obama. Gave him 7 million in plurality, and he won by 3.5 million popular votes. When I pointed that out, the Washington Post editorial board, all right, attacked me as being contemptuous and contemptible. My question to you as a psychiatrist now, the facts are on my side. I proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt using the facts, the exit polling, and all of the facts that we presented last night and tonight. Why are they attacking me so vehemently? What is wrong with telling the American people what's going on?
Well, look, I mean, the fact is Democrats did get that demographic, but that doesn't prove that they got that demographic because they're getting more stuff. I think traditionally Democrats have been getting that demographic for a very long time. That skew in social class as to who gets the vote, Democrat or Republican, has been around for a long time. I think it's a plausible theory. I don't think it's a proven fact. And I don't think, as some people have implied, that it is racist, simply because the European state, which is the model of the entitlement state, there it's not a matter of race, it's not a matter of racial minorities, it's a matter of a population growing up with the idea of being entitled. And the best example of that is in France. Sarkozy, a couple of years ago, raised the retirement age from 60 to 62. And you know what happened? Students right in the streets of Paris broke storefront windows. Think about that. Here are people who've never held a job in their life, and they're rioting because 40 years hence, they might have to stay in their last job 2 more years. That's the entitlement society, and that's beyond dependency, that's decadence.
All right, but you can disagree with my assertion that a lot of the vote was driven by the entitlement culture. I think I can prove that, all right? But you can disagree with it. Why attack me personally as being a racist and all of that? What is it in for the Washington Post to demean themselves, lower themselves by doing that?
Well, I'll repeat what I said a couple of weeks ago. I am a psychiatrist, but I don't play one on TV. So I'm not going to psychoanalyze people. I didn't see the editorial. But I think any implication that you're racist, I've known you for a long time, and I've read your stuff and hear you. And I think that's just not true.
All right. I think it's because they want to send a message that you better not mess around with the agenda that we have, creating a Western European entitlement society. And if you do, we're going to go after you. Because we know what the stats are, too. They can read.
But the point about the argument about the entitlement state versus the safety net state, which is what we think that we have in the superior, has nothing at all to do with race. Again, the issue is not in Europe.
But they make it about race because they want to send a message. They want to send a message that we're going to get you if you go on to this sacred turf, in which they're winning, by the way, Charles. They're winning, okay? If you look at the stats at how many more people are getting the entitlements now than they were 20 years ago with the same level of unemployment in the minority precincts, they're winning. This country is changing, and they don't want to be held accountable for that.
Let me tell you one thing. They won't and they can't win in the end. And the reason is that it is simply unsustainable. 30 years ago, we could have had a debate in Reagan days of whether the entitlement state or the safety net state is superior. That argument is no longer theoretical. It's empirical. History has spoken. Western Europe is collapsing in front of our eyes. That 65-year experiment with social democracy is dead. So we already know what it is. Herb Stein, the great economist, once said, if something can't go on, it won't.
All right, but it is.
And it won't.
But it is, though. You know what's going to have to happen here is that we're going to have an economic catastrophe
at some point
for the folks to wise up. Because it is happening here.
At some point, when it can't go on, it won't. And that's when the reform will happen.
All right, I'm going to give Charles another minute because I want to get his opinion on the Libyan situation. Now it's James Clapper, President Obama's national security guy, who's saying, oh, it was me. I sent Rice out there, and I took out all the al-Qaeda stuff. I'm not buying it. None of this adds up. McCain isn't buying it. Are you buying it?
I'm not buying it because the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee says that a week ago, in classified testimony, that same Clapper said that they had no idea who changed the talking points. And now a week later, he seems to discover that he did.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange, don't you think?
There's a lot of lying going on here.
I mean, I've seen amnesia in my day, in my clinical days, and that one is pretty quick, 1 week.
Okay. Again, I know you don't play a psychiatrist on TV, but there's got to be a reason behind all this.
Yeah.
Any theory on what's the reason behind all this crazy stuff?
Well, there are a lot of theories, but all I know is that in the end, the narrative spun by Susan Rice and continued by the president afterwards, for days and days afterwards on Letterman and elsewhere, was that it was a riot out of control because they didn't want the country to know that Obama's boast that Al-Qaeda was on its heels was simply not true. He kept repeating that throughout the campaign.
So it was all about the campaign. They just didn't want this in the campaign.
That's one reason. There might be a lot more nefarious ones.
Yeah, but they didn't have to worry about Mitt Romney even bringing it up. So why not just tell the people they got attacked by Al-Qaeda?
But they didn't know that in advance.
I did. All right, Charles. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. Here's our bill.
Are you a mind-reading psychiatrist?
Of course. Well, not in real life, but in fantasy land.